First. I'm a year 4 CS student. I'm interested in programming languages and I like to learn how things scale. So if you want to talk to me about interesting programming language stuff or Nix or Kubernetes, come say hi. I've been using Vim since 2017, so about 8 years now. Can I do math? 8? Maybe 8, yeah. And I use it for almost everything. Ever since 2017, I've been sold on the idea, and now I can't not use Vim anymore. So I hope everyone has Vim installed. I'm not going to go through, still can't hear anything.
I'll go first.
Yeah, okay. Okay, technical difficulties in the other rooms, I guess. So I'm going to assume everyone has Vim installed. I'm not going to explain how to install Vim. Um, Windows users use WSL or GVim. And for Mac users, you have Vim built in by default in your terminal. And Linux users, you should know what to do. Yeah. Can they hear me now? No.
Try speaking.
Yep, so testing, 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 1, 2, 3. Vim is great. The Vim Wars Emacs. No? No? Okay.
Should be good.
How's the audio in the other rooms?
Is the audio okay? I think it should be fine.
Okay, so I'll continue talking. I'll start from the top. Okay, so welcome to the Vim Hacker School. If you want to find the slides, they're available at this link, hckr.cc/hsvim slides. The slides and other relevant resources are here. Yeah. So I'll be briefly going through what is Vim, why you should use Vim, why you should learn an editor, the different modes of Vim, such as normal mode, how you write in Vim, because Vim has a different paradigm of how you write code. And then later, we'll go through more intermediate stuff in Vim. So today is more of an very introductory, more exploratory workshop. So to give you a very brief primer into how to use Vim, and then later you can figure it out on your own, because I would say Vim is not an easy thing to learn. So let me get seated and I'll start talking. So a bit about who we are. We are NUS hackers. We run a few things in NUS. We run Hack and Roll, our flagship hackathon at the start of the year. We run Friday Hacks. This Friday, we have some interesting speakers, which I'll be talking about at the end, and Hacker School, which is where you are now. For the other rooms who have not heard, I am Yadunand. I'm a year 4 CS undergrad. I'm interested in programming languages and how things scale. So if you want to talk to me about Nix or Kubernetes, come say hi. And why you should trust me about teaching Vim. I've been using Vim since 2017 as my primary editor for code, and I use it for almost everything. Cool thing about Vim is it not only exists in your terminal, it can exist in other programs like VS Code as well. And yeah, I've been using Vim for that since then. So I'm not going to go through of how to install Vim. If you're a Mac OS user, you have Vim in your terminal by default. If you're Linux, you should know what to do. And Windows users, I recommend WSL or GVim if you can get it working. But I'm not a very proficient Windows user, so yeah. So let's start. Why do we want to learn an editor, right? You don't really go and learn how to use Google Chrome or Firefox or something like that. So why are editors so important? So well, when you're writing code, you're going to spend a lot of time reading code. You're going to spend a lot of time moving around and not as much time writing code, you'll realize. So you're most of the time like editing bits of code and you're not writing an essay. So if you want to be a power user, you need to learn how to make things fast for yourself. And you want to learn an editor, which will speed up your workflow. You don't want to spend a lot of time thinking about writing and just write itself. So that's what Vim, if you become proficient enough, will help you achieve. Vim or any other editor. So how do you learn an editor? So we'll start. So this is general to any editor you learn. If you want to learn to get better at VS Code, you can use this. If you this idea. If you want to learn to use Vim better, follow this idea. So start with the very basics. Practice as much as possible. It took me about a month of using Vim to be up to about a month to be up to speed. And after that month, I was getting faster at writing code in my workplace and stuff. Look things up as you go. So Vim, there's a lot of ways to do the same thing. Some ways are faster than the others. Some ways are slower than the others. So there's a lot of shortcuts and a lot of things you can learn. and eventually your editor will save you a lot of time. So what are we going to talk about today? We'll be covering Vim. There's many editors we'll talk about, but Vim is a popular one. And so I'm here to give you your fundamentals and then point you to some resources which will help you learn and get better. And then, yeah, and then you can ask me for any questions after that. So people have a lot of opinions about Vim. It's quite interesting about editors they use even. So if you go to Google and you Google Vim, it'll say, do you mean Emacs? And if you Google Emacs, it'll say, did you mean Vim? And Emacs and Vim are very popular editors now, which were very popular editors and still are. And I'm not going to tell you which one to use. Well, I am. I'm going to tell you to use Vim because Vim is great. But you can explore your options out there. Emacs is powerful. Emacs, people have written entire operating systems around Emacs. So yeah, it's up to you. Please choose one which is interesting to you. Vim is, I like teaching Vim because it's everywhere. Anytime you connect to a terminal, SSH anywhere, Vim will be there, and it's easy to use for that. It's everywhere, yeah. So let's start with how did Vim come about, right? So Vim startup was VI imitation, was created by Bram Moolenaar, who passed away recently in 1991. It's based on another editor called VI, created by Bill Joy in 1976. And VI was designed for an editor on a very, very slow internet connection. Think of a 0.3 kilobit per second internet connection. We're now used to megabytes and gigabytes per second, right? So this is a very slow internet connection where typing a single letter would take time. So you wanted to create an editor where you needed as little characters as possible to edit your code. And interestingly enough, like mouse wasn't a thing back then. Everything was interactive. Everything you did was through a keyboard, right? So when you want to optimize on like using as little keystrokes as possible, you end up making a really efficient editor, which is what Vim became. So Vim is different from any other editors out there. It's a modal text editor. So it has different modes for editing text. When you think about, there'll be modes for interacting and manipulating with text, which is called normal mode. You have a mode for inserting text, which is called insert mode. And you have a mode for visually selecting, like when you copy and paste stuff, you have a visual mode. So the idea is that your normal editors, you can hit any keyword. You can, like if I open Vim, or right, even if you hit like any random keywords, you don't really know what's happening. Like if I'm typing, oh, let me open my Keycaster so you can see what I'm typing. All right, there you go. So if you look at my bottom of my screen, you should be able to see the keys. Let's see, let's make it bigger. Is this big enough? Okay, something like that looks good. Okay, so I'll be showing my keys because Vim is a very key presses-based editor. So it'll be nice to see what I'm actually typing. So if you open up Vim, right, make my font more legible. And if you type like a random letter, nothing really shows up until you accidentally hit like one of the letters, which brings you into insert mode. So the idea of Vim is that you spend a lot of time not editing code, but reading and navigating around code, that it separates into separate modes. So I'll talk about this more in depth as we go. So TLDR, Vim is built to be as efficient as possible. Use as little key presses to get you from point A to point B or make an edit in your code. So Vim itself is programmable, so you can write code for Vim to modify how Vim works. So I'll briefly talk about that. And you don't really use a mouse in Vim. You're meant to use your fingers on your home row, and Vim will live within that. So you can use a mouse nowadays, but I recommend not using it. I recommend using your keyboard and getting used to that. So let's talk about using Vim. So as I mentioned, there's a few primary modes. Normal mode is where you move around and make small edits. Insert mode is when you insert code. And then visual mode is for selecting code. And command mode, where you enter commands. So commands is how you do things like write to a file or search for something. And each keystroke has a different meaning in different modes. For example, if I'm in insert mode, you can see the mode I'm in at the bottom. If you don't see any text, that means you're in normal mode. If you see something, you're in insert mode. If you're in insert mode, you hit X, it means type the letter X. If you're not in insert mode, you hit X, it means delete the letter under your character. So that means you have a lot of, with your same key, with the same like number of keys, there's a lot of different functions you can do. So there's a common joke that Vim is hard to use because people don't know how to quit Vim. Like if you let's see, if you open Vim, how do you quit it, right? You can't Control C and it doesn't work. It tells you helpfully at the bottom, it says QA to quit Vim. So yeah, so so let's all just try launching Vim. So if you're in your terminal, you can type Vim and you should be within Vim. It should tell you, if my text is small enough, a little message on your screen. And if you want to quit Vim, :QA will quit Vim for you. So what you're interacting with now is the command mode. When you hit colon, you can see the colon over the bottom right. It tells you you're in a command mode where you can enter commands. So :Q stands for quit, A stands for quit all. And yeah. So by default, when you're in Vim, you start in, okay, let's make this like this and this like this, right? So by default in Vim, you're always in normal mode. So if you see nothing at the bottom, you're in normal mode. Your normal Vim workflow goes from you're in normal mode, and then later you make some changes, you go back to normal mode and look at your code. So you'll eventually get used to living in normal mode and then going to insert mode only when you want to edit or insert text. So when you're in normal mode, when you hit colon, as I said, you'll go into command mode. There's a few things in command mode. You can type :Q to quit Vim, or you can type :W, which stands for write, to write this text to a file. So let's see where I am first. Vim. Let me just go to the Vim folder. Right? Right, let's say hello world, right? And you want to write this to a file. You can type :W and then a file name. So you can put hello.txt, right? So now if I open a new window, if I ls, you'll see hello.txt over here. So :W tells you how to write to a file. So if you're using a terminal, you want to open an existing file, you type vim space, then the file name you want to edit. So if you have this file called, so I've got a file here called vimtutor. In your case, you can open up any file you want to, and there you go. You can look at the code here. So if you want to if you make some changes here, like you made some changes here, you can type :W and it'll write these changes to a file. So I'll talk about inserting code later on. I'll first go through how to interact around normal mode and then work around from there. So sometimes you made a change to a file, but you don't want to save the changes. You can type :W, and exclamation mark is the force command. So if you want to force quit, you type :Q exclamation mark. So maybe you made some changes to a file. So let's see. So like, for example, you made some changes, right, and you're going to quit, or you want to quit, it says no write since last change, add exclamation mark to override. So you can write :Q exclamation mark, and you'll quit out of Vim. So in Vim, you can compose actions. So for example, if you want to write and quit a file, right? So I've got hello.txt, I made some changes. Let me add another line, right? I want to write these changes to a file and quit it. I can write :Q, and now you've written to the file. So if you look at the file contents, it says another line and hello, and you've quit Vim. Right, so if you have any questions, please feel free to interrupt me or any of the other hackers people. They will try to help. And right. So normally when you're living, So as I said, I'll reiterate this a few times because normal mode is where your default mode is. And if sometimes you'll be typing something and then suddenly you realize you're typing and it goes in here, just hit escape. Hit escape a few times and it'll always bring you back to normal mode. For example, if you're in this weird mode called visual block, I'll talk about this later. You can hit escape and it'll bring you back to normal mode, which is where you want to be. So you'll be using this quite a lot, hitting escape. And then you might wonder, why escape? It's such a weird key, very out of the place, right? So it happened because V was originally created using this ADM3A terminal, and the keyboard looks like this, where the escape key is quite accessible. It's right beside Q. So that's why the creator of Vim made escape key the key to escape effectively. But now escape is a bit further out of the way. So some people remap caps lock to escape, or as you know in Vim, you can make Vim programmable, so you can use other key combinations to say escape. So I'll talk about this briefly later. So, all right. So when you hit escape, you're in normal mode. And a brief primer on all the other modes. You have insert mode for inserting a text. There's many ways to get into insert mode, which I'll talk about later. There's I, which will bring you to insert mode. If you hit capital I, will bring you to insert mode. A, O, or O. Right? All of these will get you into insert mode, and hitting escape will bring you back out of it. Colon will bring you to command mode. It won't tell you a message, but you'll see a little colon at the corner, and you can type. It'll end up here. And visual mode, hitting V, or capital V, or control V will bring you to visual mode. So I'll talk more in depth of each of these modes later on. And if there's any questions, please feel free to interrupt me. So now let's talk a bit more about normal mode, right? Because that's where I'll be living quite a bit. So I'll open up a file with some text in it, Vim tutor. So there's some text in this file so we can see what the actions are doing. For y'all, if you want to have a file with text on it, you can run vim tutor as a command, and it should open up a file where you can navigate around and make changes, right? So the command is colon, let me move it, vim tutor, and it should bring you to a text file you can interact with. So vim tutor is a Vim's built-in tutorial, so you can use this to supplement what I've told you, but yeah. So in Vim, the way you normally navigate around is a bit weird, is you use the keywords HGKL. So you use J to scroll down, K to scroll up, L to move left, A move right, and H to move left. So the way it works is all your fingers are on your home row. So pressing L will bring you to the right, H will bring you to the left, K will move you up, and J will move you down. We don't recommend using arrow keys. You can use arrow keys to navigate around, but the thing is arrow keys will have to move your hand away from the home row, use the arrow keys, and then come back up, which is, you know, Vim. It's to try to make things use as little key presses as possible, as efficient as possible. So learning how to use HGKL effectively will be very useful. So this takes a lot of practice and time. It took me very long to get used to using HGKL. Doesn't really make sense at first, but once you're used to it, it becomes very powerful. Yeah, it's very weird. So there's a few other actions in normal mode to make you more powerful Vim user, right? So your basic movements, HGKL. Another thing Vim allows you to do is move word by word. By pressing W, you jump a word at a time. So all of these are called actions in Vim. So you can press W to move a word in front, press B, a word behind. Right? So these are how you interact with, like, if you have a paragraph of text, you can hold W and you can quickly scroll through the length of text. Hold B to scroll backwards. If you want to go to the top of a file, double press G will bring you to the top. Capital G will bring you to the bottom of a file. And within a line, you can move left and right within a line using 0, a $, and caret. So 0 will move you to the start of a line. So if you press 0, you'll always go to the start of a line. $sign will bring you to the end of a file, end of a line. So if you want to quickly go to the end of a line, $sign, and it'll bring you there. Or look at the first line, there's a few white spaces at the front, right? So if you press Shift 6, right, or the caret, it'll bring you to the first non-white space character. So when you're interacting with code, for example, if you're looking at let's look at my very old 2030 lab, right? A lab for the, not PDF, Java. You can navigate around, and if you want to go to the start of the file, Shift 6, and it'll bring you to the first start of a line. It'll bring you to the first character of that line. Go to the top and the end. Sometimes when you compile Java and it says you have an error on line 30 something, right? You can type 34G, and it'll bring you to line 34. So my cursor is here, if you can't see. So if you want to go to the first line, 1G. So these are ways you can navigate around the file very quickly. These are not so commonly used, but are still useful to know. If you want to go to the top of the screen, press H. To the middle of the screen, press M, and it'll bring your cursor to the middle of the screen. And press L to bring your cursor to the bottom of the screen. So these are all ways like navigating around the screen. And what makes Vim great is it's designed for people to write code with. So for example, you're writing a function, right? And you want to go to the first bracket of the function. If you press %, it'll jump you between both brackets. So for example, in this Java code, you can see a highlighted bracket over here, and my cursor is here. Press %, and it'll bring you between both brackets. You can do this for like your normal parentheses as well. So if I'm here, if I press %, it'll jump me here. The thing which is very interesting is even if you're not within two parentheses, so if I'm here at this I, right, and I press %, it'll bring me to the closest parentheses on that line. And yeah, so another thing with all of these motions is you can attach a number to this motion. So okay, let's go back to this file, right? Makes it easier because I'm reading code. Yeah, so if you can attach a number. For example, I want to go to the 10th word on this paragraph, right? I can type 10. You'll see what the action is over here, and type W, and it brings me to the 10th word. A word is defined by white spaces. Or I want to go down 10 lines. I can type 10J, and it brings me down 10 lines. So I want to go to the right 10 characters. I can write 10L, and it'll bring me to the right 10 characters. And then when you're reading code, you want to scroll up and down pages of text. You use Control D. Control D will scroll down half a page of text. Control U will scroll up half a page of text. So that's how you can scroll up and down very quickly. You can hold the characters or press it one by one to know where you want to go. I know there's a lot of information. Vim takes time to learn, but you can always look at these slides and figure out where to go from there. Any questions so far? Or anything you want to say? No? Everyone's good? Okay, I shall continue. So by default, if you look at this, it doesn't look very pretty, all white and black. So Vim, you can configure Vim using a configuration file. So we can work on that. So if you go to this link, I'll give you all some time to copy it, hckr.cc/ht-vim-vimrc. And yeah, I'll put this up on screen for a second. I'll move you here. Okay. From here, you can copy this file. Just copy the text and go back to your terminal and type vim and then the paths to the file. So tilde/.vimrc on Mac and Linux. Windows should be the same. If you're on WSL, it's the same. And if you hit enter, you'll be in a Vim session, and it'll tell you you're trying to edit this file over here. And if you go into insert mode, you can paste it in. And then you can write and quit. And if you open Vim again, and if you open that file again, you'll see that there's syntax highlighting now. So now there's colors, so it's a bit more easier to read. Let's see if this terminal is more legible, actually. Is this legible?
You can slow down a bit.
Sorry? Okay.
Tell people if they need help, just raise their hands.
Oh, yeah.
We're in the secondary venues.
Right. So in the secondary venues, if you need help, raise your hands. There are a bunch of NUS Hackers people around, and we'll try to help. Let me put my phone up here. Okay, has everyone got this working so far? Do you have a configuration file with Vim? Yeah? Everyone's working? Oh, yes, sorry. The link is here. Let me know if I'm going too fast. Is everyone able to follow along? Is what I'm saying makes sense? Yes, no? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah, I realized. Yes. All right, so I'll go through how I configure the file again. I realize I was speaking very fast and going through this quite fast. So let's go through that again. From this URL, I have the vimrc open. Copy the contents of this file, right? Control C, Command C, um, and then go and then vimrc. So what you're telling is run the vim command and open this file, tilde/.vimrc. Tilde is the key above your tab key. Right? Hit enter. Let me just delete that. And then paste it in. Once you've pasted it in, you'll realize, so when you want to paste it in, you have to be in insert mode. So hit I first. So you're in insert mode. And then paste it in using your Command V or Control Shift V. Right? Once it's in, you can :W to write it. And then it'll say vimrc written, and then :Q to quit. And then if you open the same file again, so vim tilde/vimrc, you'll see that there's some syntax highlighting. Is everyone able to follow along? Good? That table okay? Good? Okay? What's the issue? Sorry? Hello. Right, so someone asked a good question is, why do we not use arrow keys? Because it's much simpler, right? Arrow keys makes much more sense. Why not? And why do we have to learn this HJKL, right? Which it's more confusing, it's a bit harder to use. Well, the principle behind Vim is minimizing hand movements. So if you have to use your mouse, you have to lift up your hand and move to another place. If you want to use the arrow keys, you have to lift up your hand and move to another place. So having all your navigation keys in the home row, so if you're typing the proper way, I guess, I don't do that, but typing the proper way, you have fingers on your J and F, right? So your right hand forefingers will be used to navigate around Vim. So that's the principle behind it, trying to minimize hand movements. Right, so is everyone up to speed now? Everyone okay? That table okay? Is that everyone here okay? I'll mute myself. Do that? Hi, okay. So a good question was asked was why is the number here weird now? It says 6 and it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 above it, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 below it. So it's using relative numbering. So 6 is your current line number. In this situation, like 8, 9, what's beside your cursor will be your current line number, and what's below it and above it is relative to that line, how many lines below it. So you can turn this off and on. If you read this configuration file, we can go through it really quickly. The first line tells it enable syntax highlighting. So, and then later, the other stuff is just nice to have, right? I'll talk about this briefly when we talk about searching. This is regarding searching. The one we talked about is set number and set relative number. So set number tells Vim to show line numbers on the side. Set relative number will tell Vim to show relative numbers on the side. So this makes it really easy. If someone asks for me to go, oh, can you go down 7 lines? I can just hit, I want to go down to this up line, right? I can just hit 10J and I'm on that line. I want to go to the line which says set number. Oh, set number is on 10 lines above. I hit 10K and I'm on that line. So it tells you relatively from your current line, how do you get to the next line? Does that make sense? Okay. So we'll go on from there. We'll talk about searching. So we haven't even gotten to editing text yet, but we'll talk about editing text later on. For now, it'll be everything except editing text. So the way you search is slightly different in Vim. There's 2 different ways of searching. You can search in line. So within a line of text, you can find something in that line by using the keyword F, right? So if I'm at the start of line and I want to go to the letter K from keys, right? I want to go to the first K, I can type FK and it'll jump me to that line, to that character. I want to go to the M in mode. Is that the first M after this? I can type FM, and oh, the first M was normal, the M in normal. If I want to go to the next one, I can type FM again. So remember I talked about like inserting a number before your command? So imagine I want to go to the second M. I could have written 2FM, and I'll go to the second M on that line. So F, like small letter F, will help you find everything within that line. If you want to go backwards, you use capital F. So I want to go to the capital D on that line, the disabled capital D. If I type capital F and then the capital D, it'll bring me to the D in disabled. So you can use this like F to jump around. So one thing I'll talk about this is later on is you can use these jumping around to compose different actions later. So that will make more sense in a bit. So that allows you to search within a single line, right? But it doesn't allow you to search to the next line. For that, you use slash. So in slash, you'll see now you're in the slash mode at the bottom, and then you can search something. So I want to find map, the word map. And now it highlights every single occurrence of the word map. From here, I can hit enter, and now my cursor is at the first M. Right? If I type map, and then if I type something else, it will disappear, right? So map will search for all the occurrences of map, hit enter, and it'll bring my cursor to there. And now how do I go between all the occurrences? I can hit N, which will bring me to the next one, or I can hit Shift N to bring me to the previous one. Everyone following so far? Questions? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Everyone following so far? Everyone good? Yeah. So as I said, there's a lot of information. Eventually, this will start becoming muscle memory and you'll get used to it. So one more thing is, if you want to search up, right? Instead of slash, you know how like most of the time you want to do the opposite of something, you use shift, right? So if you want to go down, you use N. You want to go up, you use shift N. So if slash is search down, if you want to search up from the get-go, you can use shift slash, which is question mark. And then you can search no remap, and it'll search upwards. So if you're at the bottom of the file, so if I use capital G to go to the bottom of the file, and I want to go to, if you want to search for all I know remaps, right? I know remap. Oh, sorry. Question mark I E no remap. It'll search bottom up, and I can hit enter, and N will bring me to the previous occurrence. We'll go up the search, and shift N will go down the search. It's opposite now. I don't use question mark most of the time. I just use slash, and then I hold shift N, smash N until I find what I want. So for example, yeah, for example, if I'm in like a Java file, let's see lab.for the Java, right? That's fine. I want to go to I want to find static, right? There you go. So I hit slash static, and I hit enter. Then I want to go to the next one. I can hit next, N, N, N. And if you hit the bottom of the file, it'll grab back up to the top. So one interesting thing in this, does it tell you? Yeah. So one thing is, if you look at these stuff on the bottom right, it's a bit hard to read. Let me make it bigger. If you look at this on the bottom right, it tells you what line you're on and which character on the line you're on, and how many % of the file you're through. It's useful to know, but it's nice to know sometimes when you're like a bit lost in a very large file. But yeah. And searching. Right. So now finally we can get to writing code or writing text. So all of this is the preamble to Vim where you're in the normal mode. So Vim's first mode, normal mode. So now I'll briefly talk about writing, and then we can take a short break where you can ask me questions. If you're stuck at any point, then we'll go back to learning a bit more intermediate stuff. But writing is where you'll do, as I said, most of the time you'll be spending time in normal mode, and then you'll go to writing for a bit of text, go back to normal mode and editing. So let's write some code, right? So let's use this vimrc as an example file to write. So make sure you're in normal mode, hit escape a few times, make sure it doesn't say you're in any mode at the bottom of the file. Like if you're in insert mode, it'll say insert, hit escape so that you're now in normal mode. And then you want to write some text. There's a few ways you can do it. There's I, which stands for insert. So you're going to insert text under this cursor. So if I hit I here, oh, you're going to do it now? Okay, you know what? It's okay. I'll go through about writing after the break. I think some people are a bit tired, all right? Yeah, so, okay. We will take a break for now. Where is the stuff? So I'll do a quick recap of what we've gone through so far. If you want a more in-depth Vim tutorial, we'll have a hackerspace tomorrow. What time is it? I believe it's, yeah, you can check the Telegram group. It has more details on hackerspace, where I think I'll be there. I'll try to be there. 4 to 6. It's 4 to 6 tomorrow, where we can discuss more about how to use Vim and how other people use Vim as well. That's more for a tutorial, not tutorial, more interactive workshop in a way. Talk to people. So I'll go back to the start. I'll do a quick, brief rundown of what we've learned so far, and then we'll jump into insert mode. And once you can start inserting text, that's pretty much editing in Vim, right? So let me change my font size. So we talked about why you want to learn an editor. Primary reason is to speed up your workflow. The way to learn an editor is just time. As with anything, put in 10 to 20 hours and you'll back to your normal speed. And after that, you'll start seeing a lot of gains. We'll be talking about Vim. So in Vim, there's 4 different modes: normal mode, insert mode, visual mode, and command mode. We've gone through normal mode and command mode just now. We are going to go into insert mode and visual mode. To navigate, so we'll talk about normal mode. In normal mode is how you navigate around Vim. So a quick one would be, why is this? Oh, did I full screen you?
Sorry.
That's fine. That's perfect. I'll just quickly showing other people how do you do multi-file editing in Vim. So this is me opening multiple files. So we talked about different commands, such as :Q to quit the file. Right? So you can quit a file with :Q. You can write a file with :W. You can force quit with the exclamation mark. So if you accidentally wrote a file, but you don't want to make any changes to it, you can run :Q exclamation mark, and that'll force quit. And if you want to write and quit, you can run :WQ. One thing which I did not mention, but is quite useful to know, is :E, is how you edit another file. So if you want to edit one file, you can type :E, then the file name, and you'll, did I delete action? Sorry. Yes, so you can type :E, and you can open a file to edit. If you want to open another file to edit, you can write :E, then the file name, enter, and you can open another file to edit. So that's how you can somewhat emulate opening multiple files. I'll briefly talk about like how do you navigate between different files, and I'll talk about that at the end. When you're stuck in a random mode and you want to go back to normal mode, hit escape, and you'll see your mode indicator is at the bottom. Hit escape, and it'll bring you back to your normal mode. If you're stuck in some weird visual block mode, escape will bring you back. Command mode, escape will bring you back. So we talked about navigating in normal mode, which is using HJKL, a bit weird. You can still use arrow keys if you want to, but I recommend learning HJKL. You can use W to go one word forward, B to go a word backwards, 0 to go to the start of a file. So if I was in like somewhere here and I hit 0, it'll go to the start of the line, $sign to go to the end of the line, and caret to go to the first non-white space character. I talked about using numbers before a motion. So if I want to go to the 5th character to the right, I can type 5L, and I'll go 5 characters to the right. If I want to go 2 words to the right, I can write 2W, and I'll go 2 words to the right. And then you can go to a certain line number by typing the number you want to go to, and then G, capital G. So if I want to go to the second line of the file, I can type 2, capital G, and I'll go to the second line. If I want to go 9 lines down, we enabled relative numbering, so you can go down an arbitrary number of lines. So if I want to go to the line that says void call, and it's on the 9th line down from where I am, I can type 9J, and I'm 9 lines down. You can scroll up and down when you have a long text. So example, if I'm on my, if I'm on this file, I can scroll up and down using Control D to scroll down half a page, Control U to scroll up half a page. And brackets. So if you have some text, main, and then you have some text over here. If you want to go to the top, if you want to go to a bracket, the closest parentheses or bracket, you can use the %sign. Oh, you can go to a matching bracket using the %sign. So very useful when you're jumping around in code. If you want to go to like the top of your function, when you're at the bottom, hit % and you can move around. Or if you have a parameter, right? What is it, char arg v? Then you want to go to the matching bracket. You can go to the front and end using the %sign. And okay, we talked about the Vim config that we made earlier. So we gave a Vim config, which gives you some niceties, like turns on syntax highlighting, gives you line numbers, and some other things. If you want to be a bit more, so there's one more thing at the end of the Vim file, which I didn't talk about, but if you want to have a harder life, but learn Vim properly, you can disable your arrow keys. So you're forced to use HJKL. So for example, if you uncomment these lines, you'll be forced, arrow keys will be disabled. And if you want to, you can do that. That's how I learned Vim. I forced myself to not use arrow keys by disabling the arrow keys. So I was forced to use HJKL to navigate, and that's how I got better. In Vim. Yeah. This is a Vim configuration file. That's a very good question. Someone asked if this only disables it in Vim. Yes, it doesn't disable it on your computer. So if you, like for example, if I write and I quit and I launch Vim again, arrow keys doesn't do anything anymore. You have to use HJKL. That is if you want to struggle. But learn Vim the proper way. You can comment that back, and yeah. We talked about searching, where if you want to jump to a character on the same line, you press F. So if I want to jump to the capital C case, right? I can type F, capital C, and I'll go there. If I want to go backwards, I use capital F and then I. And so that's searching within a line. If I want to jump to a word within the entire text, I can type /. maybe I want to go to, what's the interesting word? The NOP over here. I can type NOP, and I'm there. And then hit enter. And if I want to search, go down the occurrences, press N, go up, press Shift N. And I think that's where we stopped. So now we'll get to writing your code in Vim, right? Or writing text in Vim. So we'll get started. I will insert text under your cursor. So you can see here, I'll make it bigger. My cursor is on T, right? If I press I, so now I'm in insert mode, I'll write stuff right below it. So if I go to N, and then I press I, I'll write before the N. If I want to write text at the start of the line, Vim has a command for that. You don't have to, imagine if you want to do, you could scroll all the way there, press I and do it. Or if you know Vim better, you can press 0 and then insert. Or you can press Shift I and it'll bring you to the start of the line. And then you can insert your text. Likewise, but then you get stuck with this, how do you add stuff to the end of a line, right? You want to go to the end and you want to insert something after the R, you want to say hello, you can't do that, right? If you want to do it, you can press right arrow and type, but that's not very nice to do. So what you can do is press A. So A stands for append, and that's how you append stuff to the end of a line. So if you have relative number, and then you press A, you can now adding stuff to the end of the line, then you can put stuff here. If you want to, so imagine you want to write something to the end of, all right, so A is used for anywhere, it's not end of line, but anywhere onto the right of your cursor. So if I'm on this R here, right, and I write stuff to the right of the cursor, press A, I can start writing. Capital A will go end of line, and that's how you can write stuff. So like how with I, insert, capital I will bring you to the front, capital A will bring you to the back, small a will insert you to the right of your cursor. How about writing new lines, right? So if you're at the end of the file or you want to insert a new line, you can press O, and it'll insert a new line below your cursor. So O a few times, and you can insert a few lines. Or you want to insert a few lines above, press Shift O, and it'll insert a line above your current, insert a new line above your current line. So insert mode, Shift O, and then you can write stuff. Yeah. Does that make sense? Anyone has any questions? So most of the time, you either use I or A or O. Capital I, capital A, capital O are special occurrences. But with the basics of, oh, I want to write some code. I want to write some code after this set. I can press O to go to a new line and type. Any questions so far? The ones in the other room, raise your hands. Someone from NUS Hackers will come to help. Anyone need any help here? Everyone following along or confused? Good, bad? Okay. 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 So that is insert mode. That's how you write code. Pretty much that's it. If you want to, so when you not only have to write code, right? You have to make edits, you have to delete code, right? So the way you really do that in Vim is you can either go into insert mode and hit backspace, 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 but that's annoying. That's a lot of characters you need to press. You can use the keyword D. So when you're in normal mode, you want to delete a word. You learned earlier that to go a word, you press W, right? So if you want to go forward one, you press W. So if you want to delete a word, you press D, W, and that will delete a word. So you want to, let's go to the other file. Okay, right? You want to delete two words, right? You can type D, you want to delete, delete two words, and it will delete two words. So all the motions we learned earlier, we can use it with the delete character. So the way it works is delete is it's like a function, and then you apply that function to a motion. So you want to delete. Remember we learned that to go to the end of line is $. You want to delete from here to the, for example, we are on editor right now, right? We want to delete to the end of line, we can press $, and we'll delete to the end of line. If you want to delete the entire line altogether, we can press D, and it'll delete that entire line. So let's delete this paragraph of text, right? So there's 1, 2, 3, 3 lines of text. It's a bit confusing because let's make it bigger. There's 4 lines of text, right? You can type 4DD and 4 lines of text is deleted. So like we said, the basics of applying a number to an action can be used here, or any motion that we learned. Like we learned about search, right? So let's delete to the first C on this line, right? So I believe the first C is the word command here, right? So if you want to delete to the start of line to the first C, we can type D, F, delete, then F is the find character, right? And C, and we'll delete till C. So that's so the basics of like all these movement stuff that we learned, we can compose it to much more complex things. Does that make sense so far? Any questions? Because this is a very cool feature of Vim that you'll be using quite a bit to build up on other stuff. Oh, thank you. Everyone okay? Yeah. So, like for example, we learned that caret is go to the start of the line to the first white space, right? So let's go to that, and then you want to delete till the first white space. You can type D caret, and it'll delete till there. So tease, I think, one very helpful thing in Vim is, because Vim there's many ways to do the same things. There's a manual within Vim to teach you how to use it, to tell you what a command does. So you can type :h, and then type what you're trying to do. So example, what does DD mean, right? It'll tell you, so you type :h space DD, and it'll go into the manual, and it'll tell you, oh, what does DD means? So it says delete count lines into register X. So we'll talk about registers later. It's a bit complex, so I'll see if I can bring it up or not. If you want to quit this manual, you can type :q, and it'll close that screen. So for example, you want to know what :write does, right? :w. You can hit :h space :w, enter, and it'll tell you to what :w means. So it says writes the whole buffer to the current file. And if you want to quit again, you want to quit this screen, because now there's 2 screens here. There's your top is the help manual, bottom is your text you're editing. If you want to quit this screen, :q, and it deletes it, closes that. And :q, as always, exits you from Vim. So a lot of times you want to delete a bit of code and you want to go into insert mode after that, right? So Vim is a very powerful editor. Let's change to Vim is the best editor, right? So I can do very powerful, I want to delete that, so that's 3 words. So I can do D3W and then type insert the best and then escape, right? Or Vim has the action to do this in 1 step. You can use the C modifier, which stands for change. So if I go back to here, I can type C3W. Oh, no, sorry. Vim is the best, right? Is the best editor, C3W, and it'll delete 3 Ws, and now I'm in insert mode. So now I can type the best. So what we did earlier, which took multiple steps, we can do it much faster using C. So C will delete whatever you want to do, and then later input you in insert mode. So D and C, all of these actions, right? We can always append it with one of the movements we learned earlier. So example, I want to delete the character to the right of E, right? I can do DL. Oh, sorry, delete like to the character to the right of the current cursor. Or I'll delete the space, right? I can do DL and I'll delete that. If I delete to the left, DH and I'll delete to the left. DH deletes to the left. And DJ, delete 1 line down, it'll delete the line below me. It'll delete the current line and the line below me. Yeah. So as all of these movements can be applied with like a delete or a change, and I'll do that. So I've got a misspelling here. Vim is the best B editor. So let's change this. So I can go to that word. Vim is the best. And then C, I can delete till the E and then delete 1 more time. Yeah. Everyone following so far? Any questions? Anyone lost? No? Okay. So similar to like what we did with D, everything that we did with C plus the modifier, it works. So all of the navigation stuff we learned can be used with this. So sometimes you have to copy and paste text, right? And Vim has a built-in clipboard. So I'll talk, the slides has a bit of this later on, but I'll talk about it also. So Vim uses the word Y to copy things. Y stands for yank. It's a bit of old language, I guess. Nowadays we say copy, but yank used to be the thing back in the day. So yank puts us to allow us to copy of something, and then you can press W to yank a word. So for example, I want to yank the word the, right? I want to copy the word the. I can press Y, W, and now I've copied the. I want to paste it somewhere, I can press P. So Y and P. So I want to yank till the end of line, I can put Y $, and then I can go to a new line, press O, and then I can press P, and it pasted whatever I copied. So Vim's clipboard is different from your computer's clipboard. So this clipboard is built into Vim. So right, I've got multiple occurrences of the, I think about 5, D5W, DW. Does that make sense? Like I want to copy the next 6 words, I can do Y6W, and now I've copied the next 6 words. And I want to paste them, I can press P. Paste will always insert where your current cursor is, but capital P, for example, one very cool thing is YY will copy the current line. So if I want to copy this entire line, right, I can just type YY, and then I can paste that line. And you'll see me use the letter U quite a bit. U just stands for undo. Very, very powerful. If you like made a mistake, you hit escape, you can press undo. Undo will undo your last action. So if you're in insert mode and you did a lot of text, and you went back to escape, when you press U for undo, it will undo whatever you did in the last mode, in the last action. So for example, I copied this and I pasted it a few times, I can undo, undo, undo. Vim's undo is very, very powerful. There's a lot of like plugins you can use to like show you how like the full undo tree, but I won't dive too deep into that. So we learned about yank paste. What if I want to paste above where you are right now? Capital P. Normal P paste below. So I want to copy this line. I want to paste this above. I can just do capital P and it'll paste above. Okay, everyone following me so far? Copy and undo make sense? It's quite useful. Yeah. Any questions? No? No? Okay, let's trudge on. And now, like similar to, we learned about delete, we learned about change, and now there's a few other stuff that we can use, which all can be used with the motions as well. There's X, which deletes the character under your cursor. So X, I'm at this M, right? I hit X and I'll delete that. It's similar to D, but D needs to take an action after that. So DW will delete a word, but X will immediately delete whatever you want to do. But you can use X with a number, so you can do 6X will delete 6 characters. Right. Sometimes you want to replace a character. So for example, I want to replace Vim. I want to make the V into a smaller case v. I can hit R and V, and I'll replace the V with a smaller v. Undo that. I can hit V, I want to change it to VUM, V-U-M. Okay, so R allows you to replace a character. If you want to replace a lot of things, you can hit capital R. It'll go into replace mode. You can see the mode change at the bottom. And I can type whatever, and it'll replace whatever is under the cursor. Hit escape. You want me to undo all the change, press U, and it undoes everything. So the undo is very, very powerful. As long as when you quit Vim, it deletes the undo history. But when you're within one Vim, like you haven't quit Vim yet, undo keeps all the history that it had. So the undo is very, very powerful. Redo is Control R. So you can undo with U, and redo is Control R. Don't ask me why it's not R. They use R for replace and U for undo, and then they're like, oh no, how do you replace? How do you redo? Okay, Control R, I guess. Another thing is, I don't use this much, but it's useful to know, is the dot does what you last did. So if your last action was delete a word, you can press dot and it'll continue deleting a word. If your last action was pasting a line, you can press dot and it'll paste it. If your last action was delete 10 characters, 10x, you can continue, if you press dot, it'll continue doing what you just said. So that's useful. Sometimes you want to repeat something many times. Like you want to delete the first word, you can do file, delete, then you just dot, 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 go down and delete. Okay, everyone's following me so far. Okay, we've got some practice here. If you want, we'll work on this together. You can download this file from here or copy paste it somewhere. And I'll give you all some time to try it on your own. Download the file somewhere, you can edit it. What's this file called? I believe it's called errors. Yes. And then we can work on, and then we can talk about how we fix the lines in this together. So I'll give about 3 minutes for you all to try editing this file, fixing the errors using Vim. Try not to use arrow keys, try not to use your mouse. I believe with the settings you can use your mouse, but I recommend not. Especially for 2030 over the SSH session, I don't think you can use a mouse. So try fixing the code in this file, and then, yeah, we'll get back to it. If there's any questions, feel free to ask me now. I'll walk around, or raise your hands for the other rooms. So yeah, get used to like using W to go a word at a time, J to go down, K to go up. Any other comments?
I think it's okay.
All right, so Lex, I'll now try to solve these issues my way. You might have a different way of going to it, but we'll see. There's many ways to do the same things in Vim. So when we read the first line, you see that reading/editing, I think editing only has one T. So you can just search for editing. That's one thing you could do. And then now your cursor's on editing, and then find the T, X to delete that character. And now you fix that. So let me repeat what I just did. You can search for the word edit thing, because I realize there's a misspelling there. You can find the T character and then delete that. The next line you see there's duplicates. So you could go down one line, delete that line, solved. Is there any issues in the next line? Vim is programmable with Vim script and also other languages like Python. And Vim's interface itself is a programming language. Full stop. So right, I believe the last line should be a full stop, not a semicolon. So we can shift A to go to the end of the line, delete, full stop. Or if you want to live more within the Vim world, you could go to the end of line with dollars, delete that character, or replace the character with a full stop. Keystrokes with mnemonic names are commands, and those commands are composable. Vim avoids the use of mouse because it's too low. So this should be slow, so I can replace the D with a S. So use R. So each of these characters is a mnemonic, right? So R is replace, D is delete, C is change, Y is yank, P is paste. And then later, your last word, you go to the end of the line, movement misspelled wrongly. I can just replace the entire word, movement. There you go. And yeah, everyone following along? Did that make sense? There's many ways to do the same things, right? Some of you all find it easier just word, and then later fix something. Oh, editing has 2 Gs. There you go. So there's many ways to do the same thing. Whatever feels most comfortable, whatever you're used to, that'll be the best way. The thing about Vim is I'm learning new things in Vim every day. I learn stuff like G. The G is a very interesting key in Vim. Whereas like when you have a very you see how this is one line but it splits into 2 because it wraps. So if you want to go down, like even if I want to go to the word manipulating text, right? If you press J, it'll just jump across. But GJ is a visual moving lines up and down. So this is something I learned like last week. So it's very interesting little tools that you'll always be learning in Vim. Okay, so that's the basics of Vim, right? So with this, you can do pretty much everything you need to do. You can navigate around a code base. You could edit a file, and yeah. So then let's go into a bit more in-depth stuff. Before that, is everyone following along so far? Any questions? Anyone stuck at any point? No? Everyone's good? Yeah, raise your hands. Don't be shy. I'm very helpful. I don't bite yet. Don't know when the zombies are gonna help. But yes. So now we have gone through command mode, normal mode, insert mode, and then there's finally visual mode. So visual mode is how you highlight text. Like how in your normal like when you're like typing something, you can highlight the text, right? You can highlight the text. Visual mode is a Vim's version of that. So the way you do that is you press V, you're now in visual mode, and then you can use any of your normal motions to do things. You can W, you can go right, you can go down, you can go up, and it highlights that. Once they've highlighted, remember one of those actions we learned earlier, like yank, delete, change? Press any of those and it'll apply that. So I want to delete until this semicolon. I could have just done F semicolon. So now I'm highlighted until there. I can now press D and it deletes it. Right? Most of the time I don't use like yank 5W because it's a bit too hard to see. So I'll normally go into visual mode, go 5 words. Oh, yeah, that's what I wanted to copy. Now I'll copy that. And then I can paste. Paste. All right? So sometimes when you press normal V, you're in visual, like you are going character by character or word by word or something like that. Sometimes you just want to copy lines of text. Capital V will be visual line mode. So now you're highlighting a line of text at a time. Then I can copy everything, paste everything if I want to, something like that. There's a very interesting mode called visual block mode, which I think looks best when I'm doing it in Vim RC. All right, look at all these sets over here. I can go into visual block mode to select a block of text. For example, I want to select, if I go to visual block mode, Control V, it'll say visual block. My cursor is here. I can select both of these sets. Then if I want to delete it, I could just delete that. If I want to change it, I could press C and say unset. There you go. So visual block mode, very interesting. It's not commonly used, but when you need to use it, it's very powerful. So yeah, like this set, I want to change it. I want to delete it. I want to copy this, right? I could even copy that and then I could paste it somewhere. So, but most of the time, I mainly use visual line mode and visual mode to copy things, to delete things. It's sort of a nice interactive way to delete stuff. So V to the end of file, delete if I want to. Everyone following along? Make sense? Not as complex as all the insert mode stuff, but we needed to learn all those motions to be able to compose these things. So another example, another practice, you could go into this. This has a CSV file. There's a few mistakes in the CSV file, right? The first one says data from the first three columns are corrupted, let's remove them. But when you look at that, you'll see that there's some issues in the CSV file, like there's some places where there's a extra semicolon here, extra semicolon here. Oh yes, let me full screen that. Actually, I'll just open it up in my Vim. Something CSV, cities. There's a few mistakes in this file. Like there's a few places where there's an extra semicolon, extra colon. What is this character? It's a comma. My brain. It's been a long day. There's a few places where there's an extra comma, like here. And we also want to delete the first three columns. So the first three columns, we want to delete that. How do we do that? So you can try doing it yourself, and then I'll tell you all how I did it. But using the visual modes that we learned earlier, we can do this very easily. Yeah. Okay, so I'll give you all about 2 minutes, and then later, any questions, raise your hand. I'll come say hi. And yeah. Okay, so I will show you all how I solved this. So for the occurrences where there was like two semicolons, I wanted to clean that up first. So what I did was search for occurrences where there's two semicolons, enter, fix that. Next one, fix that, and there's no more double semicolons left, right? So what I did was reiterating, find two semicolons. I searched for two semicolons, two commas. I keep saying semicolons, two commas. Go to the first occurrence, delete, go to the second occurrence, delete. And now you see that this data is very nicely structured. What you can do is go into visual block mode, right? And then I could just go all the way down to the end of file. I could hold J, or I could just press G. Oh, sorry. Do this and then go to the top of file. Oh, there you go. So visual block mode. So within visual block mode, I can say that again. Go down to the end, right? And then I can just delete that. And now I've deleted the first three lines, first three columns. And then I need to fix the headers, delete that. And then I want to make the changes right and quit. Does that make sense? Was everyone able to follow along? So when you're in visual block mode, so in normal mode, visual block mode by Control V, and all your navigation is now like your normal navigation. So you can go a word at a time, right? But you're selecting you're highlighting a rectangular block of text. And yeah. So, okay, I'll talk about this and then the rest I will leave for like Q&A and stuff because I think we are running out of time. So one thing which is very useful to know is how do you open a new file, right? How do you want to open a blank file? You type :E new, and that'll open a new blank file you can write stuff to. So :E new, edit a new file, there's an E new, and then you can write stuff, and then :write, because now if you write, right, it'll tell you no file name, because you created a new file but you didn't give it a file name yet. So you can type :W and then file name. So file name could be somefile.txt. And now you've written to somefile.txt. And especially when you're doing 2030, you want to see multiple files at the same time. So you can split your screen. So :SP will split your screen horizontally. So split it up and down. Very, very useful to know. To navigate between splits, you press Control W and down. So Control W will bring you into navigate between your windows, and then J and K will bring you up or down. Okay? If you want to make a vertical split, so you want to split left and right, :VSP, and it'll make a vertical split left and right. So you want to navigate to them, Control WL will bring your cursor here. Control WH will bring your cursor to the right. Control WJ will bring it down. So now you have three splits, but they're all showing the same file. If you want to edit a new file in a different split, you can type :E and then the file name. So for example, I want to edit cities.txt at the bottom, or cities.csv at the bottom, :E space file name, enter, and it shows me that file. So very, very useful when you want to see multiple files at the same time. You want to edit multiple files and stuff like that. Sorry? Oh, I didn't talk about tab. Tab doesn't work for everyone though. Linux.
Default Vim is showing.
Yeah. Okay, so
CS2030,
for most Vim instances, there's a very powerful thing called tab, your tab key. So you can hit, when you're like in a command mode, :E, you can hit tab and it'll show list, and you can tab through all the files in that folder. Let me shrink you and then bring you up.
Talking about tabs, like
Oh, tabs.
tab new.
Okay, yes. Okay, that tabs, okay. So another thing in Vim is you can have splits, right? You can also have tabs. So you can type tab new, which will open a new tab, and you'll see two tabs at the top. So in a different tab, you can open a file like cities. You can navigate between tabs by tab N and tab P. Is there a shortcut for that? Let's see. GT.
GT.
Right. So like that was interesting. I don't use tabs often, but tabs is very powerful. So tabs will maintain your splits and whatever. So if I've got a split here, right, and I want to edit some other file here, like let's look at the vim.txt, I guess. Right? I can go to another tab by typing either tab N, tab next for tab N, right? Or navigate your tab, or GT. So in a different tab, you could open another file if you want to, like errors. Here could be Vim tutor. And then GT to navigate. Like just now, when I was a bit confused on what is there a shortcut to switch between tabs, right? I just did :h, tab new, or tab n, because I know that's to go to the next tab, and tells me I can use :tab n, :tab n next, or GT. So it tells you what shortcuts you can use to do different things.
I think conversion is very useful for 2030, and also tab new, tab term.
Tab term.
Then it lets you to go create a tab for terminal.
Oh, I did not know about this. Well, that's new to me. But very useful for 2030 is these tabs, right? So that you can navigate between multiple files. You also have tab term. How do I exit out of this?
Control W, GT.
Damn, okay. There's no way to exit that though. I see.
Quit. Exit.
Control W, quit. I see. Okay. Another useful thing which I just learned, learning new things in Vim every day, is you can open a terminal in your Vim session. Very useful in 2030 because otherwise you have to constantly be quitting Vim, compile, or coming back to it. So you can do tab term, and it opens a terminal in a new tab.
You can compile.
And then you can like run Java or whatever you want to do. And then you want to go change tabs again, you hit Control W, GT. Control W, GT, Control W, GT. If you want to quit this terminal, Control W, quit, exclamation mark. Bit confusing with the Control W, but yeah. There's one more thing I wanted to mention. Oh, another thing is, instead of that, you can press Control Z. This is more of a shell thing, but Control Z will suspend your Vim to the background, and then you can run your terminal commands here, and then you can type FG, and it'll bring your Vim back. That might be easier than tab actually.
Yeah.
So Control Z will suspend, it'll say suspended, and it'll put it in the background, and then FG will bring it back. So, yeah. So FG stands for foreground, Control Z stands for, it's a keyboard command to suspend. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about the next stuff because I think it's going to get a bit too complex. I can show y'all, but then I would recommend reading up on your own first before using these. But before that, any questions? Anyone stuck anywhere? Any questions about what we've learned so far? Because we are running out of time. So I'll host this time for Q&A. Feel free to ask for the other sessions, other rooms, feel free to ask people. But yeah. Does it make sense? Everyone okay? Yeah. So the slides, as I've said, you can look at this link online, or we'll be sharing it again in the Telegram group. The video will also be shared in our YouTube channel if you want to reference something. We have other Vim sessions as well, if you want to look at the past year's ones, if you're interested in that. Oh yes, tomorrow, 4 to 6, there's Hacker School. So if you want to talk to people using Vim, or you want to talk about stuff like that, you can come down to Hacker School. It's more interactive, more intimate, I guess. It's not a lesson. It's just all of us, a group of people in a room, doing things together. The idea of Hacker School is to sort of apply the ideas taught in Hacker School and then have a Q&A, more in-person session tomorrow. If not, I can, yeah. Yes. So if not, Vim is very powerful. There's a lot of different ways to extend Vim. There's an entire thing called macros in Vim, which I didn't talk about. It's how you can record actions and then replay them. For example, how similar to the dot replays the last thing you did. Macros can record an entire set of actions and then replay them after that. And then there's a lot of Vim configurations online and Vim plugins online. When you're using Vim full-time, I urge you to explore these. I urge you to explore not only Vim, maybe some other editor might be your favorite one. You might be an Emacs enjoyer. You might enjoy using VS Code. I recommend you to be proficient in your editor because you're going to be using your editor for a long, long time. There's a lot of resources for Vim, such as I personally use NeoVim as my editor. NeoVim is like a variant of Vim with a bunch of customizations done for it, bunch of editors. Oh, thank you. And yes, so I try to cover the base of using Vim. I can't teach you everything. There's a lot of things to know. I don't expect you to remember everything to use in Vim, the basics of navigating, moving around, inserting and editing code. After that, hopefully once you start realizing you're repeating actions, you'll remember the better way or the faster way to do things. But it takes time, takes effort, and there's almost some way to do things better. And yeah, if you really like Vim, people made Vim so you can use Vim anywhere else. There's Vimium, so if you're using a browser like Chrome, you can use Vimium to use Vim to navigate around. If you use like a JetBrains editor or VS Code, there's Vim plugins you can install so that your navigation becomes like Vim. Homebrew was created by someone who gave a speak for Friday Hacks last year. Oh, yeah, or 2 years ago. It's basically you can use Vim to navigate around your entire Mac. I believe this is a paid app, I'm not too sure. And if you need help, there's a lot of resources out there. There's thousands of YouTube videos of people explaining how to use Vim. You have your help command, which I mentioned. You have Vim Tutor. It's a guide which tells you how to use Vim. Just run Vim Tutor. It's a text file. You can read through it. It tells you how to use Vim. It'll tell you different commands. And then there's many cheat sheets, wikis. I believe someone shared a cheat sheet in our hackers group chat a few days ago. And yeah,